Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us on today's special video. I get stuck a little bit when I'm talking about this because this is a piece of history. We're going to walk around this car and we're going to talk a little bit about what life must have been in 1941. Once we see the style of this car, you're going to need to find a way to get this in your garage because when you start it, it makes this beautiful sound. It is super smooth, 12-cylinder engine under the hood. This is one of 850 coupes built. Believe it or not, it's the only coupe of its kind ordered in this color. The documentation is more than anything that we've ever had on any car ever. We even have original paint samples from Colorite back 40 years ago to make sure that this car was restored correctly. It was in a museum for decades. I found this car hidden in a garage next to a Bentley, surrounded by mattresses and Christmas ornaments. It was one of the most spectacular finds I've ever found. There was cars in the basement as well. It was amazing. Unfortunately, he has passed, but the amount of information that comes with this car is like nothing we've ever seen. We're going to spend a little time actually going over that. We normally don't do that because we normally put it online just for some photos, but we're going to do a quick vid of what we have just so you can see it because it is great. So the mirror finish on this car is great, but what I want to talk about mostly is the style of it. So like you think about this 1941, what was happening then, right? We're talking about the music era of its time. This car was twice as much, okay, almost twice as much as most people were making yearly back then. That's how expensive these were. These were hand-built cars. They were trying to overtake Cadillac, right? Lincoln's just finally coming into their own, and they want to become bigger than Cadillac. And Cadillac was the premier car of the world. And so here we look at some of the things like Angie reminded me of. You push the button here, there's no handles. Like no car was doing no handles back then like this. It's spring loaded so that it opens because, and listen how nicely it closes. This is a hand built door. You can tell the effort and energy that went into that. The styling up here and even the chrome accents that are done. I was reminded that the chrome was, they spent so much time redoing the chrome on here that all of the ridges and things like that, which normally would get filled in during the chroming process, were maintained in their original form. The paint is fabulous. I'd love for you to come on up here. Check this out. It is really a gorgeous color combination. And when we get inside the car, you're going to go, oh my God, man, that thing is beautiful. I want to spend a few minutes just talking about the detail. When you see cars today, they're mass produced. And although today's modern car is the best car ever, I want to spend a minute and look around at some of the detail of this and the craftsmanship of why America made the very best products out there. When you look at this 12-cylinder engine, first off, the valve covers are polished, the intake manifold, all of that is this beautiful, polished, stamped Zephyr on there. And then we look at some of this, where the fuel pump is right here on top, and some of the things that you can't really see, and we're going to come around in just a second and show you that. Like, for instance, it tells you how much oil is in here. There's an oil float inside there. And this little gauge right here at the top of the manifold shows you exactly what that is. The cloth-covered wiring harness. These detailed horns, you say, well, Tom, what's the big deal about some cloth-covered wiring harness or the factory-correct clamps in the car? Well, that's my point. My point is that clamps don't cost a lot of money. It's the clamps, it's the correct wiring, it's the new wiring, it's the detail of the engine, it's all the correct stuff that's still on there. Those are all the details that go into it. And see, there's just not a lot of people left in the world who could restore a car like this. And now you don't have to worry about that because it's been done. And finding a car like this with the history and provenance and the fact that all this original drivetrain is in here circa 1941 is really, really cool. It's very difficult to talk about this car technically because it's so beautiful to look at. I want to take this shot for just a moment. Normally we don't spend a lot of time back here, but I want you to see how much effort has been put into the styling of this car. And seeing all of the lumps, the bumps, and everything that went into it says how much time and effort Lincoln put into making a car that was spectacular, it was world class. This is a large car, but it drives like I don't know how to explain it. The ride of it is beautiful. The 12-cylinder is super smooth. When you go down the street in this car, like this is amongst a lot of other supermodel, great-looking cars in this showroom right now, but this car outside of here is like nothing else you've ever seen. And when it goes down the road, you can see the smile on my face, you feel like you're in some other time frame. And everyone who sees it knows right away that this car is from a certain era. The trunk style alone, like this piece here that flows down, the way the taillights are curved in a little bit. all this little detail stuff, like these latches. These are real deal latches for the trunk. Like, look at this, man. This trunk lid, and it's all so beautiful and detailed inside there and painted as you move around the whole car. Even the trunk lock itself, a beautiful little chrome cover that goes over top. Again, you say, well, Tom, what's the big deal about that little cover on there? Whatever, whatever. It's not the little cover. It's that. It's the beautiful cover here for the spare tire. They could have left the spare tire exposed, except they went ahead and they handmade a metal piece for the spare tire cover itself. Color matched the wheel to match that. The wide whites all around the car. The beautiful chrome. These pieces painted red inside. Just little tiny stuff like that just says, wow, this is a great car. All right, so come join me inside here, because this, my friends, is an incredible, incredible cockpit. I wanted to share with you just a moment how thick the file is on this car. We're going to go over it again, but I keep bringing it up because when you have things like this, the history of this car, there's letters dating back decades and decades in between the last couple owners talking about making sure that things are restored correctly and they're authentic. The wood dash in here so beautifully preserved. The original AM radio on here. Just look at the styling of that alone for some of the things that you can have. The one thing that we do know is that this car was pretty powerful for its time. It came with a 110 mile an hour speedometer, which was pretty impressive when you think about it. Cars back then, 65, 75, some maybe 80 miles an hour max. Not many cars could approach these big speeds, and you have full gauges as well. Little detail stuff, which I just think is I get so excited about it. First off, we have leather and the brocade cloth. All new carpets in here with the blue binding that's on there. In the glove box, this is kind of cool. All right, the original sticker still on there for the tire pressure and the oil and things like that you needed to have, whether it's summer or winter. The glove box itself, they even talk about that in the restoration, is felt lined. That's a big deal. You say, well, what is a felt lined glove box going to have to do with the value of a car? You're right. If it was just a felt lined glove box, no. But it's all of the brass pieces and the gold touches and this beautiful steering wheel and all of these little things that make for this car to be so beautiful. And the fact that it all still works and still functions just kind of like it did circa 1941. Back to some detail things. In the restoration, it says that this is originally gold plating. Think about what Lincoln was trying to do. They're trying to catch Cadillac, which was the standard of the world, and just be a better car. So what did they do? They added this beautifully designed dash, right? The numerals, even inside the gauges, are great. And like little stuff where you had to pull a handle to get in and out of cars, they went ahead and pioneered the push button, and it's just such a cool piece. I wanted to spend a minute and go over the documentation of this incredible piece of history. It just, when I say to you, this is hours and hours and hours of fabulous reading and detail that we have never experienced in a car. For instance, just look at the size of this for a second. I struggle to get this out, but just I don't want to bore you with it, but you need to see some of this. So, for instance, here is an original owner's manual. Okay. This is for the Owners Club from the 1980s. So this owner here acquired this car in the 80s. Came from the Black Hawk collection. It was originally in a museum for quite some time. All that history is labeled inside here as you go through all of these documents. Okay? You say, well, and I say that only because when you see how fastidious this owner was, I found this car in a collection of his as he passed away. And it was hidden next to a Rolls Royce, a Bentley, in a garage covered with mattresses and Christmas ornaments in great shape. So it was amazing that it was still all protected, but you couldn't see it. So they would open the doors and they had to cut way through, but nobody knew what was in there. When we opened these doors and we found out, it was amazing. Then we were allowed to go down into the basement, and there was another 13 cars down there. It was so cool. All right, so it's like original kind of documents here, just about the details of the car and how it works. Which is all kind of cool, but this is where it gets super fabo, all right? So in here, yes, we have an extra set of keys, and that may not be the big deal here, but in here is all the documentation of how the vehicle moved through the system, including every receipt, every picture, every correspondence over 40 or 50 years about this car, even the shipping receipts when he picked it up from the Black Hawk collection. It was very expensive back in the 80s. He paid $1,300, almost $1,400 in the 80s right? The price really hasn't changed much in the last 40 years, and so it's pretty cool. Here's where the original advertisement was, circa 1988. This paper's from 1988. He was asking $37,500 for the car back then. That's pretty amazing how these have gone up in value. It's had a beautiful restoration, receipts totaling all of the details in here, articles featured about it, the bidder number when he finally bought the car. All right, that was really cool. Then in here are pictures of the vehicle when it was for sale, because we didn't have digital cameras to email and do all the good stuff there. We did this here. We had conversations with people. We played in playgrounds. It was just a different kind of slower, cool world. All right. Next, we have parts and service receipts, that work that was done over time, from the firing order to work, all kinds of nice little details. Again, some more pictures. And I don't want to bore you with every single piece of it. This is for a parts manual, some more parts. These are newspaper clippings about the vehicle itself, how it started life, and the change of this. I'd like to remind everybody that this is only one, it's the only one in the world of its kind. It is the only Hampton Blue coupe that was ever painted. There is a convertible, a matching convertible, right? And he tracked down the owner of the convertible during that time so that they could discuss these two cars. This is a super, super rare find, and that's why I wanted to spend a second with you. Parts and accessories, if you wanted to buy some extra parts, here's some list of those things here. I don't know if these people are still alive or even around today. That's from the 80s. This right here is probably the best piece of it. This is the standard factory colors. Then it goes into a description about the paint of this car. Not only does it go into the description of the paint about this car, inside of it was some factory chips, okay, so that they could perfectly match the car when it was restored to this color, right, making sure that they were able to get it. A lot of people thought it was Zephyr blue or some other color like that, when really it was Hampton blue. It's not even listed here on the color charts that were available. It's a custom color. Think about what would have happened, or who you had to be to stop the assembly line, right, and have a car painted the way you wanted it. All right, so here's some more documentation authenticating how spectacular this car is. Ed Spagnola, right, worked for Color-Right, right, and sent to Mrs. Schneider about this car. The code they had was for was the only one, and in his letter to her circa 1985 says that my source tells me that your car was the only one painted in Hampton blue. That's just amazing. I could sit here and read this for days and days. And then here is Color-Right making them a gallon of that paint, especially for this car, who was the original supplier of the paint to Lincoln during that time. I want to close up the video sitting inside the car just because this is the place you need to be. When you're rolling down the road in this, and the sound of the car, just so smooth it is, and you think about the engineers, you think about the effort that went in to build and style a car like this. This is a two-door Continental. The Continental they still sell today. We're doing this video in 2020. The Continental is out there. Obviously doesn't look anything like this, but all of these little pieces, from this beautiful mounted mirror to the color match wheels to the chrome pieces and the flying pieces and the detailed interior, on and on and on, is all great. What maybe should happen is maybe a Lincoln dealer buys this and they puts it on the showroom floor. As it continues to go up in value year after year after year, can you imagine people walking in, looking at a new Lincoln and looking at this car here and going, oh my God, I remember riding around in that car, or my grandparents had one of those cars. It is a great piece of history. If you can find a way to get in your garage, you need to do that. Anyway, call us, 301-816-1000. We'll tell you all about it. Don't forget to share this video if you don't mind. Click down below and tell us a little bit of comments. If you've ever ridden in one of these cars or an old school Continental like this, tell us. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to know a journey that you had, and if you can share some pictures, that'd be even better. Thanks so much.